Hi there, is anyone there? Can you just tell me in private chat? So, are you there? And give people a few minutes just to turn up. Just like to say, I haven't actually published this at all or promoted this at all because I had some pretty bad news last week. So, hi there. Could somebody message me in private chat if you're there? I think there's only a few people on this one. I haven't publicized it. I had some pretty bad news last week. My very old dad with cancer. Can you just tell me there? It looks to me like there's a few people here. Though I've never used this software before, so I actually don't know who's there. So can you message me if you are there, please? And we'll just give a couple of minutes for another if anyone else is actually coming on board. So if you could just message me, who are you, just down in the private chat. Or you can do it through the YouTube channel if you prefer. It's a brand new channel. I just sort of say this is very much a first setup. So okay, but if people are not going to actually interact with me, I'm not going to carry on really with this one. So please, if you are there, can you just send me a message, please, or just put a thumbs up on the YouTube channel. I'll just give it another couple of minutes. Okay, there just seemed to be somebody somebody out there. Okay, if I could just introduce myself, because I will run this session for you, and we'll see if anyone else shows up. Um, my name's Neil Atkin. A bit of background on me. Um, been a teacher for many years, many years, as physics teacher. Got into using technology, but always only using technology when it does something for education, when it does something you can't possibly do without it. And in the age of AI, this is going to be massive. This is going to be really, really huge what it can do, because it can do so much that we couldn't possibly do without it before. The worst thing about the potential of AI is it being used badly, and certainly is what's actually happening quite a lot of the time now, where what we actually have a situation where teachers are actually using AI to create the worksheets, who you create homeworks, giving it to the students are using AI to actually answer the questions, hand it into the teacher, and then the teacher uses AI to mark it. It's absolutely bonkers. Um, and so there's a complete outsourcing of the brain, and now there's quite a bit of research is actually already finding that AI is making people more stupid. Um, and so what we need to do is we need to sort of consider, well, what can AI actually do, and how can it help us? And by the way, I should probably start by explaining my face, actually, because I was helping my wife move some bees, and I discovered that bee suits are amazing things when the bees are outside. But when bees get inside the bee suit, that's actually a terrible thing. So I was actually holding one of the parts of the hive, and then all of a sudden, I saw the stream of bees started coming up past my face and started stinging me all over. So I'm not in the best conditions, really. So what we need to do is we need to look out there. Well, what can AI do? Now, I'm a physics teacher, and what I'm interested in is the fundamental things of, well, what do my students know when they come into my classroom? What do they know when they leave my classroom? How can I show progress in between those two times? And AI gives us an incredible ability to do this, because I can actually go to any of the AIs and say, right, go to the Institute of Physics website. I'm teaching forces, for example. And what I want you to do is to pull out the key misconceptions of forces. What actually are forces? Where forces causing those problems? What's the cosmos there? So the AI will actually create that for me. Between 20 misconceptions. Now create me a diagnostic test. Once it's given me a diagnostic test, I can drop it into Google Forms. My students come in the room. I give them a diagnostic test, they answer it, and I can actually get the AI to analyze what those results are, and it can tell me this is what they know, this is what they don't know, and that's an insane amount of information from a few minutes effort, a few minutes for me, and that to me is what AI is about. Used badly, though, AI is just a killer of curiosity, because what actually happens is, I mean, I'm from the generation where we're going, well, sir, why do maths teachers, why do I have to learn this stuff, maths? Why do I need to learn this stuff? And the maths teacher, well, you won't be walking around with a calculator in your pocket in the future, will you? And it's like, well, actually, Mr. Baker, you're wrong, because I do. But this is way, way beyond the calculator. What we've actually got here is a device that will give you the answer to everything. And in so doing so, it would be destroying any kind of cognitive effort, any kind of curiosity, because curiosity is an interesting thing. It's that creation of a knowledge gap. Um, but it's got to be a knowledge gap that people want us to actually to fill, and have to also have the ability to fill it. And it's effortful. It is the only way that we actually put effort in. And to give you an example of this, one of the things I use is Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. So in Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman comes up with this, there's two types of thinking. By the way, he got the Nobel Prize for this in 2012. There's a system one thinking and a system two thinking. So system one thinking is a rapid, quick, automatic thinking that we use almost every day. So if you've learned to drive a car, it's pretty much automatic. You don't really need to think in any great depth about how you're going to be driving things. But when you first get into a car, you actually go, oh my goodness, I've never driven one of these before. There's so much to do, so much to think about. I've got to, what's this, that, and the other. and it's effortful, hugely effortful, and that's system 2 thinking. But we have a tendency to not use system 2 thinking, because if I go into system 2 thinking, my heart rate will increase, my blood pressure will increase, my glucose consumption will go through the roof. Thinking is effortful, and we're not really evolved to put effort in things when we can't really see the point. So your students would probably quite happily learn to drive a car because they can see the purpose of that. But if you're trying to explain to them the causes for the French Revolution or something, and they're not interested in that, they're not going to put that effort in unless you can do something interesting and create some curiosity. And that's what I'm going to try and show you, how AI can potentially do this, and how we can create a personal teaching assistant. So what we mean by a personal teaching assistant can be whatever you actually want it to be. So there's different things that you might want it for. You might want it to be just your lesson planning assistant. So you might want it to be a support assistant. So you've got some students who've got English as a second language, you've got students who've got different issues, different problems, etc., different needs, and so you can actually make it that this is my lesson plan for this class, and it will automatically give you those differentiated worksheets which will be needed for the others. As well as, you know, the joy of AI is you can actually say, right, I'm trying to explain to you the concept of radioactivity, for example, and I can say to the AI, oh, can you explain it as if you're 5, explain it if you're 7, explain it if you're 12, and it will give us all of those different options. Though there is a caveat with that, where you have to make sure that that it's actually not throwing misconceptions in, because one of the great things about AI and the terrible things about AI is its supreme self-confidence. It always feels that it can do things for you. So that could be your teaching assistant, you could be your content creator. So you could actually say, right, I want to make it so that my teaching assistant is actually about creating courses for this. So we can actually set one specifically for that. You might want it to be your homework assistant. So it's upon which actually you set it up to create and mark homework. So any of those things would be the great thing to actually use this AI for. So I'm going to take you through using ChatGPT first, and then using Google Notebook LM. And it is going to be, unfortunately, going to be a bit of a shortened session tonight because I do have to go. So I'm just going to take it through quite quickly. So, and I say this is the first time I've actually used this one. So I'm going to share a window, and let's just do this. Okay, so I'm going to go to my ChatGPT here. And there's a couple of things you can do within ChatGPT. So you can see over here, I've got this idea of projects. So I can create a new project here. So this could be my personal teaching assistant. And this is using the paid version. But I'll show you how you can do it if you don't have this. And once I've set this up, this now is my project. So you can just put create. And just looking at the screen, that's not sharing it properly. Let me just see why that is. I think there's a bit of a lag on it. Let me just check this is actually working for you. Okay, so what this is now going to be is this remembers what we set it up for. So I'm now going to put into it what I want my teaching assistant to be. So it's like, okay, so I am a teacher of whatever your subject is, and then you're giving it as much information as you possibly can, because I only need to enter this, it only needs to be in once. I'm just a bit concerned that it doesn't seem to be sharing the screen with you. So let me just have a look and check what's happening here. Right, sorry guys, it's not sharing the window properly with you. It's just looking at this window and not this one. Why is it doing that? And I do apologize. It's the first time I've used this software, and it was working perfectly well beforehand. All right, is it not doing right? Let's just cancel that one. Let's bring it out of here. Okay, I'm going to switch actually to Google Notebook LM instead to show you that, because that way I know that this is going to be working. Okay, so this time I'm going to actually stop sharing this one, and let's go to sharing. Okay, so this is Google Notebook LM. And this is checking on my live thing, checking that this is actually working properly. And just take it to here. Right, let me just go so it's actually maximized. So hopefully you can see that now. Okay, so what I'm going to do within this now is, I don't know how many of you have seen Google Notebook LM before, but this is absolutely fabulous. I absolutely love Google Notebook LM. So I've already set it up with the title AL Personal Assistant Teacher Support. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that person. I'm going to actually do it as my teaching assistant here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually add sources to it. So the way that Google Notebook LM works is this is Gemini in the middle of it. And on this side, we can add the sources. Now, the great thing about this, it actually only takes information from these sources itself. It doesn't take any information from anywhere else. So you can be assured that it's got a quality control element in this. So what I can actually add, so look at what I'm actually going to be teaching. I've got two options here. I've got add and I've got discover. So I'm going to, if I click on add, then I've got, these are the options I've got. So I can have Google Docs, I could have Google Slides, I could have the websites, I could have YouTube videos, I can have copy text. So what I'm going to be thinking about here is I'm teaching, so for example, I'm teaching in a school forces, and the school has got a series of slides that it's using usually for those lessons. So I can actually pull those slides in and drop those slides in. I might be using Google Docs, and if I'm using Google Docs, again, I've got worksheets, etc. that I can actually pull them in straight in from there. If you're using a Microsoft system, you can use Notebook LM to actually create these. You just need to actually have a Google account in order to do these. Now, one thing about Notebook LM, just before I forget, it's actually currently only for over 18 only. So this is for you to use to create it. So maybe I'm going to put a link in here so I can look at a website link. And what I've got, oh goodness, we've got Ofsted coming up. So what I'll do is I will take from this the education framework. So I'm going to put this one into my Notebook LM. And what we'll see is we'll see that this is now has the inspection framework over here on the right. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go to discover what am I interested in. So I am teaching forces to a group of 15-year-olds following AQA triple science physics. Okay, so I can just now submit this and just give it a moment to come up. And so this is actually giving us already the specification. It's giving us the ready to use lesson series from this one, Force and Misconceptions in the Physics Classroom, STEM Learning, Free Body Diagram. It's got some videos in here, weight versus mass from this one, Hooke's Law, pressure, etc. So I'm going to import those. Okay, so this is now giving me all of those things. But what I might want to do as well, I want to add to this Actually, let's just go to discover sources on this one. Okay, so let's look at what research ed says is best teaching practice. So what I'm going to do now, I'm not just interested in the content, I'm actually interested in what good teaching actually is as well. So I'm going to add that to the sources, because now my Google LM is going to use that as well. So it's going to be looking not just at the actual knowledge, it's looking at some of the skill sets as well. I'm also going to discover things I want: engaging physics starters for forces. And I can just click submit for that one. And here we've got some engaging simple conceptual dynamics. Okay. Now, what we can do, we can always ask our students for any of the YouTube videos that they find super cool or whatever for this one. So now I've actually got all of these different resources here. So now I want to do, right, so give me some ideas for my lesson on introduction to Newton's laws using best practice in research and engaging ideas. And here we go. Let's just have a look and see what we've actually got here. Now, often what I will do from this is I will put my own teaching plans up here, because what we don't want AI to be doing is to be creating something which is not ours. If we will never create an outstanding lesson. This is a build up on the lesson ones I've actually done before. So let's have a look. Short review of previous learning, etc. Present new material in small steps so student practice there. Ask a large number of questions from my model scaffolds. Okay. Engaging activities, some real world of things. All right, so it's giving me all of these different ideas of things I should be doing, real examples. So explain why rocket blasting off demonstrates this law. And for each of these ones, what it does is, you see these dots here, these actually will take you to the reference. So you can just hover over them and they'll tell you this one. So if I just look at this one here, we've got the hands-on lab, penny on a card experiment. By flicking and pulling an overhanging card, the card slides off the table while the penny stays in place. Okay, so that's one way we just put the penny on. It's a nice one to use, etc. So egg crush experiment, Newton's second law of motion, flat wooden toothpicks and wood glue, the challenge to build a device capable of protecting an egg from being crushed. So I've got all of these nice ideas which were actually on here. And what I can do for this one, because I can actually add to this, is build up my whole curriculum through this one. So this is specific to this one class, which I haven't really defined. All I've said about them is that they are so this is very much a content creation thing. So I can use this idea to give me some more ideas from Momentum. Okay, so outline, what I can do now is outline a lesson. Actually just do the outline a 55-minute lesson introducing Newton's laws. Okay, and what it's doing now, this will actually create this for me. Okay, so while we're waiting, what I just want you to do is to start thinking, how would you use this in your classroom? What would we actually do in your classroom in order to do this? Okay, so here's my lesson plan, and it's giving me an idea for a lesson plan. And here's a lesson breakdown, introduction to number 12. So I've got all of these information here. Now, the great thing about this, I can actually create a study guide from this. So if I just click on study guide, it will create me something which will be a set of revision notes, which some people find very, very useful. And this takes a little while to his study guide. So this is now my study guide. So here's the quiz questions. Here's the answer keys. So one of the things it said that we wanted to do was have lots of questions. Here's some examples of questions it's actually creating for us. And here's a glossary of terms. So this is something we might want to share with our students when we're doing this. So there's a study guide. We can do a briefing doc, we can have notes, we can have frequent asked questions, but this now starts becoming a really interesting one here. Now, I'm not going to do, I'll start this off, but it will probably take forever because this is actually a 2-hour one for saying at the moment. I can generate a conversation based on this. So this is now creating a podcast for me. And if you want to think about content creation and having a teacher personal assistant, being able to create revision resources that you know are quality and you've actually defined them and created them, to me is pretty mind-blowing. So it will take a little while to actually load up. So whilst we're loading, just have a think. What would you use this for? And ideally, if you get it, have a little play with it. Just have a 5-minute play with it just while we get there. So just while we're waiting for this to load. Okay, so it's actually basing it on 31 sources. I shouldn't really have taken that many sources from it in order to do this practical. But in fact, whilst what I'll do is I will take you to look at one that's already actually been in here. So here's AI's physics on there, and we can see now I've got a conversation here. So rather than create one, I'm just actually going to load this one.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today, we're going to try to answer a question I bet a lot of you out there have been wondering about. Can AI actually help us learn physics?
Oh, it's definitely a question a lot of people are asking these days, and there's some really interesting research out.
So you can modify this, so change the language, change the things. You can actually, in the future, I'm not sure if it's actually available yet, but you'll be able to make this so that if you have kids who are different languages, they can actually listen to it in different languages. It does have an interactive mode, which to me is quite insane. So if we've got those dyslexic learners or we've got people who are struggling for this, we can actually get this here. And what I need to do here, I can join.
Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
Hello. Okay, so I just need to just allow this. Hi guys. What I really want to know is how will AI make it that we don't kill curiosity in our classrooms? Do you have any information on that?
That is such a fantastic question, and it's something we've actually been thinking a lot about as we prepared for this episode.
Absolutely. It's not just about the technical capabilities of AI, but how it impacts the very human element of learning.
You know, it ties in perfectly with what we were going to discuss later about the bigger picture of AI.
Okay, so just one of the things about ChatGPT and is the American aspect of them, which I'm not saying is a negative thing, but it does grate a bit sometimes the British people. Certainly when I'm using ChatGPT and saying, I want to do something, it will go, hey, Neil, that's such a great idea. Okay, so this is Notebook LM, which is it's free, and it is, I think, is absolutely stunning. The downside of Google sometimes is that they do have a tendency to suddenly kill things that they have been using. So I'm just going to stop sharing that one, and now I'm going to go and I'll have a look at sharing with you the chat GPT, which is what I wanted to do. Oh, I think I went to the entire screen this time. Now let's have a look and see whether that works. Let's go to here. And let's go to ChatGPT. And I just want to check this comes up. And looking at myself on the thing, it's just, yeah, this was one moment. Okay, so how ChatGPT can be personalized is, as I said, we just before, but I didn't show there, was actually in projects. So I could create new project here, or I could create personal teaching assistant. And when I could create personal teaching assistant, I basically set up who I am as a teacher, what I am as a teacher, what I'm doing as a teacher, what my class is like, etc. I'm going to give some more information about this later. And once I've set it up, I just press save, and this would be, so I'm teaching blah, 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 etc. I can save it, and it will always come up from this one. So give you an idea. This is one from my ethical educator, AI in the classroom. This is my website, share with you. And for each of these things, I've actually added to the project. And so this is now knows exactly who I am and what I am, and everything about me. So this is the projects. When we're looking at the projects, one of the things we might want to do is set one up for each of our classes, but we don't need to be quite so specific as that, because that's going to create huge numbers of projects. What we can do is, I want to show you something I set up before, is something where we actually define what the teacher is. Now I'll share it with you as a Google Doc. So just one moment while I just see how this works. Okay, so let's just stop sharing that. And let's start sharing class code. Okay. So what I'm showing you here is a class code builder template. And what I'll do is I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to copy the link for it. I'm going to stick it in the chat so you can actually see this. And you'll see how it works in a minute when I show you. I just want to make sure this is actually appearing on the screen on the thing. Here we go. And that's not big enough, so let's set this to here so I can actually just do this so you can see it properly. Right, again, apologies because this is the first time I've used this, and say I've had some pretty rough personal experiences in the last week or so. So check if this is going to go bigger. Yep, here we go. So this is a template, and once you set up the template, it's actually, we can create this really, really easily. So this is now going to be my class code, and the way I'm going to use this is that when I put in, as I put at the bottom of the instructions, from now on, when I say class 9E in a prompt, class 9E introduction to pressure of gases, please tailor the class to match this profile. So I'm now going to set up for each of my classes that I teach, and this, if you're teaching something where you teach loads of classes, this is going to be a bit onerous, but maybe they should be fairly similar. So I've got the year group age, I've got the ability profile. So these are lower ability, so they need chunked instructions from it. They prefer practical or visual tasks. That's for their preference, not necessarily what's best for them. And this is why we build research-ed ideas into this one. Inclusion and support, I've got 3 Bengali speakers in here. I've got 1 pupil with autism who needs structure and consistency, and 1 pupil with working memory difficulties who needs scaffolding and repetition. And what that's telling my ChatGPT is that this is the differentiation I want. So every time I'm going to put 9E into this, it's going to know that this is my class. So here's my teaching preference: retrieval-based starters, collaborative or pair staffs, visual support, sentence starters, clear step-by-step instructions. And there's a default task structure. This is optional. You can change this. So what I want to have every lesson I have starts with a starter. We've got a retrieval practice, visual recap. Again, Ofsted will, anybody who's inspecting will love this. It's just good practice anyway. Here's the main task: scaffolded chunk steps with models examples. Support sentence starters or glossary for the Bengali, some of the Bengali English students. An extension, a challenge question with a support prompt. Now, one of the problems we actually got here as well is if we're doing this as a homework, the students are going to use AI in order to actually answer that. And what we need to do is we need to make sure we counter that by coming up with AI questions, but questions that AI can't do. And if anyone's interested, I've got a course in a couple of weeks. No, next week on Tuesday, which is how we can do that. So here's a prompt to set the context in ChatGPT. I want you to remember that when I say class 9E, you should assume the following. And so we've got all of these things in here. So all I'm going to do here, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to share that with you in the chat. So this should go through to you in the chat. I'll try and put that in the YouTube. I'll stick that in the YouTube chat later for if you've only got access to this on the YouTube channel. So this now, it gives you an example of what your context actually is. So that's in the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just copy that. So copy that. And now I'm going to stop sharing, and we're just going to go back to the live one. I'm going to go back to here. And I'm going to start sharing it with an entire screen. And switch to here. I'm going to just drop that into ChatGPT. So let's just go to, so this is assuming I don't have the projects, or you can even do it with the projects. It's just a very easy way to actually do this. So I just dropped that into ChatGPT. And what I can create here now is I can create a series of codes. So as soon as I put one of my class codes in, it will actually know what to do. So here's my class 9E. So I've created a question before on forces. I'm introducing Newton's laws. Give me an example lesson plan. Okay, so what I'm going to do here and so just looking at this, let's make this a bit bigger. I can't make it bigger. So here's my starter. We've got retrieval practice, matching key terms with images, dual language glossary on the side. So we're on a slide. So I've got some Bengali stuff on the slides, etc. For that. Here's my main task. Break it into scaffolded, etc. And then I've got, here's Newton's second law, push two trolleys. And this isn't really very interesting. So I've got, give me some more ideas for stars. Give me some more interactive ideas. And this is the whole key for using any AI. This idea that what we do is we prompt it, we ask a good question, and once we actually see what the question response is, we then evaluate that response and then we modify it. And this is why it's absolutely crucial. We actually teach our kids about STEM thinking and about scientific thinking, because once we can actually be scientific thinkers, they can also use AI, because scientific method is almost exactly that. So here I've got two different ones here. So here, oh, this is looking much better. I've now got a tablecloth challenge. So this is Newton's first law. Why does the cup stay still? Because no force acts on it. This shows the object wants to keep doing what it was already doing. So this is awful, because from a physics perspective, because it's actually telling me here, the cup stayed still because no force acted on it. There was a force acting on it and it wasn't still. This shows the object wants to keep doing what it was already doing. The idea that things want to do things is shocking to me, awful. So now I'm going to train my AI. So let's have a look and see what's it actually saying on here. There's a powerful visual of inertia, objects stay at rest unless acted on. So this one's much, much better. This one's here. So I want to make sure. So going down, it will ask you which one prefer. I prefer this response. And I'm going to teach my AI now, don't ever say objects. Don't ever say objects want to move. Okay. And so now it's going to apologize to me. So it's an accurate mechanistic expression. So this again is how we can train our AI. And this is for more advanced courses in the future, where we're actually looking then at the ways that we can create it that it doesn't give us this jolly happy, hey Neil, that's such a great idea, etc. So we can actually make it that we're actually looking at things which are more professional. We can change the tone that it gets to, we can change all of these different things. So this is now giving me this one, and so let's just give you a quick example of that. So let's stop sharing and let's go full screen on this. And what we've got here, I'm just going to give you an example of a tablecloth pull using computers. Now I can actually do it here. Yeah, we can just about get it on here. So I need a piece of paper. So this is now my new lesson starter. And so here's my paper. Now, interestingly here, if I pull slowly, it comes with me. But if I pull it very quickly, it stays. And there's your example of Newton's first law. And it's actually about inertia. It's about the fact that heavier things actually move, take more effort to move them than there is a force. They don't not move. There is a slight force on them, but the shorter the time the force acts, the smaller the motion change, and the opposite way, the longer time a force acts, the bigger the change in motion. So if I hit a tennis ball, I actually follow through. If I kick a football, I follow through. One of the things I did is to see physics of football. I did a project with Arsenal once. Again, if anyone's interested, contact me and I will give you some more information on how we can do that. So that's how we can actually start personalizing all of these ideas. So I've got to just do about another 5 minutes or so, because I'm going to have I'm going to have to go a bit early to pick some kids up tonight. But this is a free session, so hopefully you've enjoyed it so far. In chat, does anyone got any questions in chat? Because once I've set up that template, one of the things we can do with that is we can actually create a spreadsheet. And this would be a fantastic thing. Just wondering, this would be an amazing thing to do as a school. If you're a head of department or something, what you can do is you could create a whole Google form which actually has within it what type of class you've got, what students you've got in that class, etc. Google form, or ideally, if you can pull out information from Sims, you can have these are the number of students which have actually got English as a second language or any other things. So one of the things, certainly from the old days of Ofsted, when an Ofsted inspector would come in the room, he'd want to know what did I know about those kids who had additional needs, and what was I doing about those kids with additional needs? And it don't need to be named. So what you're doing is you're creating that class profile. In that class profile, I have 3 EALs. I've got one autistic, what this, that, and the other. And you can have a little bit of background on how they specifically like to. You can also bring into it behavioral issues, etc. All these different things, and these can all be put down as your class. And as soon as I type class 9E into it, all of that information comes up, all of that information about everything about them and the way I teach. So as soon as I teach a good lesson and it works really well with them, I upload that to the AI and say, this lesson worked really well. And it doesn't necessarily disengage them really well. We've got to make sure the difference between engagement and education, but there's no harm ever in sticking a bit of engagement. So they found this really fun. Can you try and put similar activities in every lesson if it's only taking a short amount of time? This was particularly effective technique. So can you add these types of techniques to my class 9E? And as time goes on, it builds up this incredible profile of your class 9E, and whatever they actually are. So you're personalizing this, and you're creating this amazing resource where you're putting your normal lesson plan in. So this is my lesson plan, or a standard lesson plan. Maybe you've got your department have these standard lessons. This is a standard lesson plan. Adapt it for my class 9E. Here's a class 9E. For the 2 English second language, because one of those is very weak, can you actually give him the workbook or something in his own language, in Bengali, whatever, and it will do that for you. So I hope you found this useful. Let's just have a play with it, really. Google Notebook LM to me is stunningly amazing, primarily because it's that ecosystem that you control. You know that it's not going to go outside of that and pull some nonsense off the internet. And this is one of the key issues we find with AI. It's like one of those friends of yours who everyone knows, one of these people who know the answer to everything, and they give you an answer. They might not be wrong. They might well be wrong. They might not have a clue about it, but they can't ever admit that they don't know. And this is something I've certainly found. ChatGPT is particularly bad, I think. When you say, hey, can you do this? Hey, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, well, yeah, I'll do that. And then you try and do it, and he goes, look, that's really not doing it. That's not what I wanted. And they're incredibly optimistic, more so than their capability is at the moment. Obviously, their capability is improving. And that to me is why Google LM has real value, because it's got this. Now you can share your Notebook LM with other teachers, so you could have a departmental one. So all of the people who are teaching forces, every time you find a brilliant, cool resource, stick it into this Google Notebook. And again, it becomes much better and better and better. Now, what I would tend to do is I pull the ideas from Notebook LM, which has got all those resources, and then I would stick it into ChatGPT. You can do a similar thing with Gemini, but it doesn't work quite so well. I think ChatGPT still does it and says, class 9E, make me this lesson, personalize this lesson, boof, and there's a lesson. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm really going to have to go now. I hope you found this useful. If you have found, if you could leave me a comment on YouTube, that would be great. Otherwise, I hope to see you next week, same time for a different one. Okay, so goodbye from all.